All right. Well, welcome to the Film Year in Review panel.
Crimes of the Future.
Crimes of the Future. Oh, yes. Crimes of the Future, I know a lot of people, some people didn't really dig on Crimes of the Future because they felt like it was like typical, Cronenberg type of, body horror. But I actually kind of dug it, mostly because Cronenberg always finds a way to gross me out in amazing ways. And so, like, for those who haven't seen it, Crimes of the Future is a film all about this future where apparently, like entertainment and artistic displays are about dissection and body mutilation, because people have apparently become adverse to pain, and they're used to it now, and there are now people who can grow like rogue organs, and now having their organs taken out is all a part of a big show. So there's this huge like evolution where they discovered that there are people who can eat plastic and that they can consume it like naturally and like nothing terrible happens to them. And this is tried to be cordoned off by the government, and as a result, this artist who specializes in watching people and people coming to his shows and watching organs get taken out of his body is thrown into this situation where he's trying to figure out whether or not he should help this person who eats plastic or not in this giant conspiracy. So there's a detective story laid on top of all like this grossness of opening up bodies and like the new, like basically like cutting up bodies has become like the new sex. It's like nobody like feels all that much pain. Like now, like sex has been kind of reduced to like you can't even get off if like you're not getting like cut up by a machine at that point, which is like it's gross, but for like this type of society, it kind of makes sense. Like which they even address at one point. Like at one point, like someone tries to initiate like traditional sex, and they're just kind of like, sorry, that's a little old-fashioned for me, I can't quite get into this unless I don't have someone with a scalpel, cutting up my body while I'm doing it. So yeah, it's not for the squeamish, especially because like the one thing that grossed me out more than anything was that the way that Viggo Mortensen's character, who grows rogue organs, he requires a special chair to eat, which is like this like bony contraption that has to oscillate in order to make him eat, and like he can't quite digest food, and he ends up kind of like almost like choking it while he's in like this bone chair trying to eat it, and that really grossed me out, and I was surprised by that. Like Cronenberg, who's done stuff like like The Brood and Scanners, all these like really bloody and gory body pictures, and he's able to make this film like from last year that can still gross me out. That's pretty amazing, especially with the fact that you consider that his son is also doing these really gross body horror films that are also going out there, and the fact that he can still almost like one up his son a little bit, because like I really did like his son's film Possessor. That was a great film about diving deep into identity and sexuality and violence, and here comes Danny Cronenberg back to say, well, let me show you how it's done, dude.
This one's probably been talked to death already, but Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Oh yes, Everything Everywhere All at Once. For as much as people like to say that the film was overrated, I still love that film. And I think that's mostly because like Everything Everywhere All at Once taps into something much more than you would expect. Like I was just expecting like a wild ride. Like they promised multiverse stuff, so I was just gonna think, okay, it's gonna be trippy visuals. But the fact that it could actually tap into, something that, something meaningful about, like the way that we interact with the world and how we feel about ourselves, and also feel very existentialist with how it portrays how we view life and our place in it, and trying to make the best of the world that we have, and also like the bigger allegories, like with coming to terms with your children. There's so much that the film taps into, and it has fun with it, and it's bizarre enough that it can tap into all these great elements and also have fun with it. Like, I mean, how many people are going to watch that film and look at Ratatouille the same way again? They're not.
Oh, yeah.
They're not.
I'm a
They're-
raccoon between every all my movements now.
You're gonna think of Ratatouille all the time. Which is warranted because you think about that film a lot, and the more you watch it, the better it gets. Like I watched that film like 5 times, and every time it gets better, and it feels like it's tapping into something that you didn't quite see before, and addresses like a huge element of empathy. So I mean, yeah, I mean it's not a big shocker that that film won the Oscar for Best Picture. Considering all the other films, that.
He won an Oscar.
Yeah. I mean the fact that I think that's wonderful. The fact that we have an Oscar-winning film for Best Picture, which is a film that features weaponized dildos and people fighting over putting a butt plug up themselves. That's wonderful. I cannot be mad at this. How can you be mad at this film? How can you think it's overrated? We got a Best Picture winner in which somebody beats someone up with dildos. That's great. That's great.
I even cried near the end too.
Was it?
I even cried near the end.
Oh, of course. Like when you get to that final realization of trying to find something in life that's worth living for, and empathizing with other people. Yeah, you cry because it taps into something deep within yourself that most people can relate to. When you grow up and you have children and you try to relate to other people and you try to see their hardships and you try to imagine yourself as someone else. Yeah, you bawl like a bitch at the end of it, and you're warranted for that because it's a great film for touching into that, and I'm glad that the Daniels were able to do that with this type of film.
Cocaine Bear.
Cocaine Bear.
Yes! I just can't get enough.
Cocaine Bear is.
More cosplay.
Cocaine Bear was my most anticipated film this year. Mostly because it looks like it would deliver on what it promised. Because I know a lot of people were looking forward to the Super Mario Brothers movie, but I tried to make the argument consider what they're offering. Super Mario Brothers has a Mario who doesn't sound like Mario. Cocaine Bear has a bear on cocaine.
And it was Ray Liotta's film.
I can't be proud. Yeah, and especially when you got Ray Liotta, hamming it up in there. And I mean, but it's a film called Cocaine Bear. It's semi-based on a true story and takes all its liberties with it and has fun with it. And it has all the fun that it can. I love the absurdity of it and the tongue-in-cheek nature of it.
Too. It just keeps pulling you in. You get inspired, all right. Then it just all of a sudden it's just whoa. Okay.
Yeah, and it keeps going with it. I love the fact that Margot Martindale gets to shoot a gun and has all the funny lines. I love that Ray Liotta is playing his typical gangster, but he's kind of having fun in the role. I love that the bear has all his other absurdities, doing a line of cocaine off someone's severed arm and jumping up into trees and inhaling cocaine. Having all this fun with material, and also little things with the introduction, how they mentioned that bears can get agitated and all that, and their source is Wikipedia, which is hilarious. I love that they start the film that way, and that they also they invoke the news footage from the era to let yes, this is a true story. Cocaine did crash down. A bear did ingest it. But we're gonna have fun with it, What if the bear went on a killing rampage and there was blood and guts everywhere and cocaine, Why not have fun with it? The true story is really not that exciting, but
he pretty much died right away.
He OD'd.
Yeah, you OD'd, so that's not as fun.
But for a brief second there, he's probably one of the deadliest things that ever lived.
Yes.
Most definitely. Well, brief second, but
ingesting all that cocaine, the film has problems. I almost kind of wish it would have, I almost kind of wish the film was longer, just so I could get to love these characters. But I feel we spend just enough time with a lot of the characters where you get to know and love them enough, and they get to have fun with the material, and they get to embrace the absurdity of it all. And
also, I think that's one of the best lines I've heard in any movie recently.
Which one?
It was when the kid yelled at the one gangster at the rifle. He said, the guy's like, "Who are you?" And he goes, "My name is Mike, and I'm just so tired."
That makes sense. That kid's been through a lot. After running from a bear and doing his first shot of cocaine, yeah, that's a lot for that kid. Yeah, like Cocaine Bear has its issues, but for what it delivered, you know, it's a fun B movie. Like it has its issues. It's not going to be the best film of the year, but as a B movie, I love the hell out of it. Yeah,
it knows what it's about. It knows it's a B movie. They're like, let's just have fun with it.
It knows what it's trying to be, and yeah,
Cocaine
it
Bear
has
for you
fun.
too.
Yes, yeah, I love Cocaine Bear.
No,
No, oh yes.
I've seen that movie like 6 times.
Oh, I love Nope.
Uh-huh.
Like at this point, like you know, like for me, Jordan Peele is like 3 out of 3 with horror films, and like Nope is so fascinating because like it turns the camera kind of like around on the audience, but not so much in like an obvious meta way. Because like the whole deal is like, yeah, there's a UFO, it's terrorizing this community, it's eating up horses, and it's focusing on, you know, anyone who gives it attention. And I love the whole like kind of like animalistic aspect, you know, whether how like, you know, they, you know, with humans trying to understand creatures and the fact that the UFO itself is not just a flying object, like it's a living being that is more or less the way that it's depicted as like a camera, and it basically becomes like the demands of the audience, which is great because like when you have like a creature who's like demanding to be entertained and demanding to be fed, and then you have a character who just says, nope, I'm not getting out of my car, I'm going to sit right here and you can deal with it. And then the monster gets angry and it starts chucking stuff at them, which is great. And just like the way that the monster unfolds, like it starts off as a UFO and then it expands into like this kind of like papery substance of just like, you know, it's like a papery substance, but also has like the aspect of like a film camera kind of pointing directly at the characters as if to say like, look, this is a horror movie, entertain me, you know, give me blood, give me all this fun stuff. And then, you know, the characters are kind of semi-aware of this, like nope, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to, you know, not only am I not going to give you what you want, I'm going to turn the camera back on you. Because I love the fact that the whole narrative of the film is just pointing the camera back at the audience. Because, like, their whole deal is that they want to capture footage of the UFO. And it's not just a matter of just capturing the UFO. It's a matter of, like, you know, throwing the mirror back at the audience to say, like, you know, like, look, is this really what you want? Is this what you want? Because we're going to turn it right back around on you. And it becomes very interesting. And it's also, like, I mean, aside from, like, the greater allegory, it's just amazingly shot. Just all, like, the vast landscapes and just the Western aspect that they embrace through it. The kind of like the filmic history that they embrace, and also just having fun with the material. Like at one point they have like the iconic Akira motorcycle slide, and for as much as it's like, yeah, I've seen that before. It's like, you know what? If you're having fun with the material and you're doing all this cool stuff, yeah, I'm cool with having the Akira slide. Just yeah, like Jordan Peele is clearly having a lot of fun with this material. He knows what he's doing, and he's tapping into something that most horror directors aren't doing, which I love. That being said, I will say that a great double feature with Nope is a horror film called Barbarian. How many people have seen Barbarian? Oh, yeah. Wonderful. Barbarian is a great horror subversion film. Because the whole idea of Barbarian is that it starts off with a character going to a B&B and it's occupied by someone else, and you think that person might be a killer because this has been advertised as a horror movie, so they might kill them. But he doesn't. In fact, he goes out of his way to ensure that, like, look, I'm not a killer, I'm doing everything right, you don't have to be creeped out, and then something creepy is found in the basement. And I relate Barbarian back to Nope because there's a similar moment where where the main protagonist, the woman, goes down to the basement. She sees the creepy like entrance into a dark hallway, and her immediate reaction is the same thing. She just looks at it and says, "Nope," and shuts it. But what I love about Barbarian is that instead of having the monster turn around on it, the movie itself manipulates the character in that situation because she says, no, I'm not going down that dark hallway. But at the same time, she's locked in the basement. There's nothing she can do. Like, she might be able to break open the window. She could do that. She could wait till, her B&B mate comes back and, let her out of the basement. But, the dark hallway's right there. And this is a horror movie. And there's probably some interesting stuff down there. So she just ends up going down there. And for as frustrating as that may be, the film has even more subversion because then it flips over to another character. We get to like Justin Long's character, who is just, he's like a canceled actor, like basically a big a-hole. And you think like, oh, he's gonna get some redemption out of this. Even he thinks he's gonna get some redemption out of going into this house and into this basement. And he doesn't. And what he finds in that basement is like, it's creepy, it's messed up, and there's like a whole legacy behind it, but it does not proceed the way that you think it does. And there's total whiplash throughout that film, which I love. So that's why I recommend like Barbarian and Nope as like a perfect double feature, because they're both horror films that are subversive and are aware of like the audience member who keeps looking at the screen, like, oh, don't go in there. Don't you go in there. I know. And these are films that are knowledgeable enough of those elements and play with them in several ways. Like Nope plays with it by saying like, look, you can say Nope, but that monster wants blood. You got to handle it in some way. And Barbarian handles it by just saying, look, this is a horror movie. Just go down the dark hallway, all right? So you don't know what's down there. Just maybe go down there. You might find something creepy.
It's All Quiet on the Western Front.
All Quiet on the Western Front, yeah. For as much as it is a remake of like a very, very old, like both movie and book, it works.
Oh, okay.
Because, I really got into All Quiet on the Western Front because the whole thing, the crux of making that remake is you have to show how much World War I sucks right up to the end. And that film, like, especially like if you're trying to stage like an anti-war film with like brutality and stuff like that, it's an easy sell. You just show the inhumanity, you show people losing lives, and you make it dark and grisly and violent right up to like the very end, to like the very second that the war ends, and you amp it up to all the inhumanity that it's worth. And it works. Like it's mostly just like, you could almost kind of look at it as kind of like an exploitation showcase. It's kind of like the biggest, argument for an anti-war film, because I'm trying to remember, I think it was like Truffaut who said like, it's almost impossible to make an anti-war film because you always got to show how, brutal and epic that war looks. But All Quiet on the Western Front, I feel like does a great job of trying to revitalize that recognition that that war is grisly, and it's horrifying.
Well, it does a really good job too. Like stuff like a lot of war movies just have people kind of lose themselves their way. They really dragged out him just kind of like losing himself towards the end.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like they dragged it out.
Yeah, especially like like I said, when you get to like the last moments in that movie when it's like like the war is gonna end at this specific time, and right up to like the last second, people are still killing each other and still just almost pointlessly murdering each other because they know the war is going to end at this point. That it shows like how pointless it is at that point, which just shows like the inhumanity, which is more or less kind of like what the book was all about and what the original movie was all about, and the film just kind of like amps it up. It just like kind of it feels like almost kind of like a necessary remake where it's just kind of like like let's take all the tech that we have and just like make this anti-war statement even more powerful than it was before. And it works, especially like, with the great cinematography and the visual effects of, showing people just like brutalized, like being run over by tanks and set on fire and just like, and it's not shown to be cool, it's shown to be horrifying and terrible and frightening. It gets the job done. Like, I mean, it was a pretty big top awards contender, and you know, it kind of earned it because it gets under your skin, and it does what all anti-war films should do. Yep.
I was thinking about the newest, greatest Christmas movie that was ever released last year, Violent Night.
Oh, Violent Night. Violent Night is going to become a Christmas classic. For a lot of reasons. For one, like, you know, David Harbour is a great choice to, you know, have like as a Santa Claus, and also like a violent, haggard Santa Claus who's pissed off at the holiday. He devours that role like perfectly. Like, you cannot imagine anyone else in that role. He's perfect for that. And the fact that like he's this Santa who's like, you know, like doesn't give a crap about like Christmas and then gets thrown into like this Die Hard style like terrorist plot is brilliant. Because it proceeds more or less like Die Hard, but has fun with the material, and you have great characters. That I love the fact that that John Leguizamo is the lead terrorist, and he has a huge bent against Christmas because of a traumatic backstory, which is perfect for this type of film. And I love the fact that the kid you have in the film really loves Home Alone, and she tries to stop the terrorists with like Home Alone style traps. And those are great because they showcase what would really happen if you use those traps. Which is that, you know, they would have just like bounced back up like Looney Tunes characters. They would be brutalized. And the fact that the kid doesn't know this, and just like, it's like Home Alone, you know, bowling balls in the face, even though bowling balls in the face would probably crack open your cranium. So, and the fact that they show all the brutality is just like the perfect amount of absurdity. Not to mention the fact that Santa Claus uses all his like magic to dispatch all these terrorists in the best way, that the final death of the film involving a chimney is just so brilliant, so perfect, that I have no doubt in my mind that Violent Night, if it isn't already, by the come Christmas time, it's going to be a Christmas classic. Like, I have no doubt in my mind that a lot of people are going to, like, you know, saddle this up there with, like, you know, like Bad Santa and, I don't know, The Green Knight as, like, you know, one of those, like, violent Christmas movies that you got to watch.
I did not think of Green Knight as a Christmas movie, to be honest.
Was that?
I did not think of The Green Knight as a Christmas movie.
Oh, The Green Knight is a Christmas movie. You want to know why? Because the moment when the Green Knight slashes, like, decapitates, the moment when, like, Sir Gawain decapitates the Green Knight, he says, "Never forget this Christmas day," and then decapitates the Green Knight. That's a Christmas movie, man. I mean, it's a dark and depressing Christmas movie about death. That's a Christmas movie. I'm just saying, it takes place at Christmas, and, you know, a year later on Christmas time, he has to go get his own head cut off, so... it's one of my more favorite unorthodox. Like, I know we're gonna say like, yo, Die Hard's a Christmas movie. No, Green Knight's a Christmas movie. Like, Violent Night's easier to sell because, you know, it's Santa going on a murderous rampage, which is fun. You know, we don't get many films. I mean, well, like Santa's sleigh and all that. You know, we get B movies, but never any ones that feel this fun and exciting and playful with material, and one that can, you know, look at Home Alone and say, no, people would actually die if he did this. And actually, that's pretty funny. So, we could do that.
Moonfall.
Moonfall, oh.
Yes, that was a good B movie right there. That was a solid one.
Oh, but Moonfall is one of those, like, films. Moonfall is one of those great, like, so bad it's fun films. And I think I loved Moonfall because I saw it with the right audience. Because, like, the way that I saw it, like, I was at a press screener, and we were seated right next to a university physics department, and you can see what happens here. Like, immediately, once like the premise starts getting revealed, the physics department, they were cracking up. They were it's like, the moon's doing what? and I was kind of like, okay, you know, they're having fun with it. But then the more that it keeps going, you start getting more in on the joke too. Because like, the fact that like the moon is going to crash into the earth and that it's this big whole like alien structure or whatever is ridiculous enough. But the way that it proceeds with it in typical like Roland Emmerich fashion, which if you've seen any other Roland Emmerich disaster films, they're all ridiculous. They're all absurd. And Moonfall is no exception. And in fact, Moonfall is the best kind of Roland Emmerich film because it embraces kind of the ridiculousness and the absurdity of it. Almost kind of like, I don't want to say tongue-in-cheek, but almost like unintentionally. Because I was like halfway through this film, I was on the floor laughing. I was struggling to stay in my seat. Because anytime there was something happening, like anytime there was dialogue with the moon, I was laughing my ass off. They're saying like, oh, the moon's gonna crash into the earth. Or like, oh, the moon will, we're going into the moon. Or, oh shit, here comes the moon! The fact that like characters know like when the moon is getting close enough that they can determine when the gravity's gonna shift and when their oxygen is gonna deplete is great. And the fact that I think the funniest thing about the film is the fact that, in order to save the earth, the three main characters have to fly into the moon's butthole with a ship that literally says, "Fuck the moon." That is, by the time it got to the whole thing, like, yes, like the moon is like an alien like satellite that came to the planet. So like, okay, you know what? This is so much freaking fun. I can't stay mad at this film. I am laughing too hard to be like hard on this film. This is an absolute joy.
Probably a better sequel than Independence Day Resurgence, I guess.
Right.
Oh yeah, very much a better film. And in fact, I love the fact that like you can tell that this film is so bad that it's funny, that it's not trying to be funny. Because at one point in the film, there's at least two scenes where the film references Elon Musk, like positively. Like the main character's like, what would Elon Musk do? Like, yes, Daddy Elon will save the day. And this is the only time this happened. Like everyone in the audience like groaned when they mentioned Elon Musk. Like every single person just audibly groaned when they heard that bit. Like
did not age well.
yeah, like I feel like Emmerich thought that, it'd be a funny reference, but everyone was just like, oh God, that's terrible. And you know what? It was terrible, but the fact that it gave me confidence because it made me realize, wait, this is a film that almost doesn't realize that it's terrible. And that makes it so much more funnier. That's why I love this film. Like, it's not trying to be funny. I almost feel like Emmerich legit feels like this is supposed to be a thrilling film when it's just funny and absurd as hell. And it's one of those like so funny as bad films that I'm just like for as terrible as it is, I can't stay mad at it because it's more or less doing what I would like to see out of a film like The Room or something like that. I would say hey, if you want to watch Moonfall, get a bunch of your buddies together, get drunk and watch it. It's a lot of fun.
Would you say it's one of those like B movies that kind of knows it's a B movie? It's like, all right, let's just roll with it.
See, I almost thought that until I saw the Elon Musk bit.
Yeah.
And until when it got like earnest with it, and then it started having lines like, "Oh shit, here comes the moon." It's like it's almost like they have too much. Emmerich has too much faith in it. If you get drunk with a bunch of friends, I think that's the key thing. Watch it with a bunch of people because you will have fun with this film with how ridiculous it is. So. That's the only way to watch it. And the only way I would recommend to watch it. So yeah. Don't watch alone.
Yeah, that's my mistake. I got bored.
Yeah, don't watch it alone. Watch it with friends, get a bunch of beers or edibles. You will have fun with it. That's the only way to watch it. I would not recommend to watch it any other way. In fact, hell, watch it with the physics department because they were on the floor much faster before I was, and I was like, yeah, okay, you know what? Halfway through, I'm with you guys. Yeah, I'm digging this film.
Not a film in particular, but rather I kind of fell behind on horror movies over the past year. I was wondering if there was any that really stood out to you.
Well, aside from the other ones that we've mentioned, with Nope, and I mentioned X and Pearl. Those are great ones to watch. One that I'm trying to recommend more people watch is there's a film called Skinamarink. And Skinamarink it's fairly divisive, mostly because like it's a budgeted horror film, but it's a horror film all about a house where parts of it disappear. So like the doors will disappear, the windows will disappear, the toilet will disappear, and it all follows like two children trying to like not wake up their parents and not disturb them. And it's all the more creepy because you don't see them. Like the film is mostly focused on like, like whatever's on the television or the carpet that's filled with toys or the ceiling. And at one point, like the toys go up on the ceiling and like the dark shadows in the background. And the best way I can describe Skinamarink is like it's almost like having like a nightmare, and I feel like it's one of those films that is going to be most relatable for anyone who's had like night terrors. Because when I was a kid, I used to be like terrified of going to sleep, and I would just be frightened by like the carpet. Like I was afraid that like something was moving in the carpet. And here is a film called Skinamarink, in which like they keep it like grainy and like very close up on every element of the house, where you feel almost like something is moving and there is something more to this than just what you're seeing and what is being focused on in that more than that. It's just it's terrifying, and especially the fact that like the doors are disappearing, so you can't go anywhere. There's a huge like passage of time, like at one point like many years pass when they're trapped in this house, and it's never really addressed that much. And in the few points when there actually is bloodshed in the film, the blood kind of like leaps back and forth in time, where it's not like, where it feels like there's someone else controlling it. And what's really creepy about the film to me is the way that the film ends, where it finally shows the entity that's controlling the entire house, and it's a face, but because like the entire footage of the film is grainy, you can't see the face. And the kid character is trying to ask who this person is, and it doesn't answer. It's just this creepy, unidentifiable person who's controlling this entire scenario, and it feels completely like a nightmare that it just really got under my skin. So yeah, Skinamarink, it's on Shudder right now, the horror streaming service. It was in theaters for a bit. But right now, it's my favorite horror film of the year. It's been through like festivals from like last year, but it's just kind of getting out to an audience now, and it is absolutely terrifying. And that's coming after like 2022, when we had a lot of great horror films, like I said, like X and Pearl and Nope and Barbarian and all these great horror films. So yeah, I'm really hoping that a lot of more people will pay attention to Skinamarink.
If you're a fan of Guillermo del Toro, his stop motion Pinocchio.
Oh, yeah, Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio. Yeah, I was surprised by how much I dug it. And I love the fact that, like Guillermo del Toro, who usually like, who leans heavier into horror, isn't afraid to showcase that. I love the fact that when he looks at the Pinocchio story, he tries to find ways that can make it more brutal and more honest. And the fact that, like Geppetto's like building Pinocchio and then he comes to life, it's never treated like as being, wholly affectionate, but almost as like a terrifying response to grief. Like when he chops down the tree and builds Pinocchio, like the lightning's going and it's terrifying. And then when Pinocchio comes to life, Geppetto's not like, oh, I have a boy. He's like, oh my God, why is the puppet moving? Why is it doing this? And it's great, and I love the fact that like they try to incorporate it more into like fascist Italy and make a bigger point about Pinocchio trying to realize the world and realizing that there's more to it than just like the basic morality that was in like the Disney version. Like there's a heavier aspect of trying to find some semblance of like meaning in your life, especially when the fact that like there's definitely like an existential dread when like Pinocchio realizes that he's been to like the world of the afterlife and realizes that he has like a limited time there, realizing that other people will outlive him and that he has to deal with that as well. which is great. I love the fact that, you know, Del Toro, he can do like this great stop motion Pinocchio film, but also weave these elements of horror in there where like a lot of older kids are gonna look at this like, oh yeah, that's actually a cooler Pinocchio. I kind of like where this is going. Yep.
Bullet Train.
Yes!
Oh
This is
yeah.
the one I was gonna suggest.
Bullet Train is so much fun. Like a lot of people were worried about Bullet Train because it's based on a book.
Which is a really good book.
And it's a really good book, and a lot of people are afraid that the film was going to miss the mark. But the film actually does have a lot of fun with the material. So the whole deal with like Bullet Train is that there's like a train going by, and like there's a whole bunch of like gangsters on board, and they're all fighting after this briefcase, and there's mafia ties going to it, but there's all this weird subversion to it, like they reference Thomas the Tank Engine.
Diesel.
There's
You're the diesel.
they're constantly looking for the diesel, and it's like I'm not a diesel, you're a diesel. All these great fun lines with that. They play around with the material. They have a great cast. I like the fact that Brad Pitt's character is an assassin who's all about not wanting to hurt people, and then inadvertently ends up hurting them. like he's not trying to kill anyone, and then he accidentally like kills. Like, oh no, damn it! No, I'm not trying to do that. Like at one point he gets poisoned by someone, and he like forces them to give him the antidote. It's like, okay, now give yourself the antidote. Wait, you didn't carry 2 antidotes? Why? I don't want you to die. It's like you kind of feel for him at that point, because like you're not just like rooting for him to like survive at this point. You're rooting for him to like kind of try to save people because you feel bad for him. So it's kind of adorable. It's fast paced. I feel like it almost kind of runs out of steam by the end because it's trying to be so ridiculous that at one point like it's trying to have like fun with the material, but like it gives like weird backstories. Like at one point they introduce a character called the Wolf. And before they kind of introduce the Wolf into his big fight scene, they give you his entire backstory about how he's someone who's grown up in a world of violence, and he's bound by revenge, and he wants to get back at whoever killed his fiancée. And then he's immediately killed after revealing all his origin story. Which is funny, but then as the film keeps on going, it has like other origin stories. It gets a little bit ridiculous. They have some guest stars, which are kind of funny. But at one point, they have an origin story for a water bottle, which is like, it's kind of funny, but it's like, okay, you've kind of exhausted this joke at this point. This is fine. I'm cool with this, but like, you gotta lay off the origin story and the fast and frenetic pacing, because like it's good. I really like the pacing and the comedic energy throughout, and the cast is all brilliant. You got Michael Shannon, and you've got Brad Pitt, and you've got
Sandra Bullock.
You've got a few surprises. Yeah, like Sandra Bullock doesn't show up until the end. You've got a surprise guest cameo by Channing Tatum, who thinks that everyone is trying to solicit him for sex, which is a great little bit there. So yeah, like I actually had a lot of fun with Bullet Train. It's a fun, zippy action film, which has fun with the material. Like I don't even care like the main like Yakuza leader is played by Michael Shannon. Michael Shannon has fun with that role. That's all I can ask for that film, is just that everyone is having fun with the material, and that they're going with the violence and the craziness of it, and they do that. So yeah, it's a fun film.
And Ryan Reynolds paid off Brad Pitt's free cameo in Deadpool 2.
Yeah, Ryan Reynolds literally has a one-shot cameo in this. He's literally in one shot of the film, and it's perfectly placed. It's just like here's this guy we've been talking about the whole time, and we're just going to show one shot of him, and we're not going to dress him, and we're not even going to get many lines. It's just going to be he's there. And I love a film that can be that brazen with its guest starring. Yeah,
That was Ryan Reynolds.
I really didn't like the Mario Brothers movie.
Hardly anyone did.
Well, here's the thing. I put this as like kind of like a caveat for my review. If your only goal for the Mario movie is that you don't want it to be as bad as the 1993 film, and you want to just pick out, and you want the film to acknowledge all your Nintendo and Mario trivia, you will probably like the film. If you want more than that, you're probably not going to like it because it doesn't spend much time with the characters. It kind of zooms by it all. It kind of does a pastiche of, interesting aspects. It's basically like the Illumination formula. So that's everyone say how could you not like the Mario movie? It's okay, it's by Illumination. Look up Illumination. They've made films like Despicable Me, Minions, The Secret Life of Pets, The Grinch, Sing. And if you looked at all their films and the way that they're assembled with kind of their patchwork assembly with arcs that don't quite pay off, this is pretty much the same thing they always do. It's just now they've dressed it up in Nintendo material and they've propped up a bunch of, Mario references on top of it. So I wish I could like it. I wish I could say that, Illumination broke from their formula, but they didn't, and I didn't honestly expect them to because Illumination films have always made profits. So, the fact that Nintendo would look at Illumination and say, no, don't break from what you're doing. We like money. Just just here. We'll give you all this material, but it's I'm frustrated with the film because it's made by the same people who made Teen Titans Go to the Movies. And I love that film because it tries to be satirical with the DC Comics universe. It pokes fun at it and it has fun with the material and points out all the ridiculousness of it. And here they're doing the Mario Brothers movie, and it feels like they're kind of being delicate with everything. They're not trying to have ridiculousness with it. They're just saying okay, we're not gonna make fun of the Mushroom Kingdom. We're gonna acknowledge that the Mushroom Kingdom is a serious place, and that Bowser's Badlands is a serious place. We're gonna treat everything with respect and loyalty, and we're not gonna mess anything up. And that's my biggest criticism. The film feels too safe with all this material, and it's for the biggest video game franchise, you can't do that. But I mean, it's Illumination, and they usually keep stuff patchwork and safe and profitable. So. And
the last time they took risks with Mario Brothers for a movie, it did not end so well.
Well, the thing is, they didn't take a risk. It didn't the 1993 Mario Brothers movie didn't work as well because no one could decide what they wanted the film to be.
Oh yeah, that was a shit show too.
Yeah, I mean, when they were changing the script daily, they didn't know if they were making a fantasy adventure or a dystopian film or a dark film or a bright film. It kept going back and forth, and Nintendo figured that if we just shove it off to a small company, they'll figure out what to do. And they didn't. And here, Nintendo got involved and made sure look, we're not going to make it 1993 Super Mario Brothers movie. The problem is, they got so involved that it just comes off like a corporate product. The Super Mario Brothers animated movie has less relation to 1993's Mario Brothers movie and more relation to The Wizard. Have you ever seen The Wizard?
Yeah.
The Wizard is just a film meant to promote
the Power Glove.
Well, the Power Glove, and it was meant to promote Super Mario Brothers 3, which hadn't come out yet. So it was just a big commercial.
I still don't know how that scoring system works. How does that work?
Yeah.
It doesn't. The whole tournament where they have where hey, if you can get through Super Mario Brothers 3, you can, we'll keep points. There is no way to points. And the way that they convince people that there are points in that is because no one had played the game. Super Mario Brothers 3 had not come out at that point. It's just okay, wait, there's points? I don't know what they're doing here. And so they had that benefit of just making Super Mario Brothers 3 a big tournament when nobody knew how it worked. In fact, if you look at that film, there's stuff that doesn't make sense. At one point they say oh, someone got to the 3rd level of Ninja Turtles, even though if you look at the screen, it's level 1. So it was clearly just it didn't matter if it was being true to the games. It just mattered if you got the product out there and you pushed it out. Which is what I imagine the Super Mario Brothers animated movie is going to be. It's just push all the references out there, just show all these characters and these games, and just highlight the music and show the levels and show the power-ups and the characters, and that'll be it. Just throw on some celebrity voice.
Every voice actor is a celebrity.
And yeah, just throw celebrity voice actors on
Some
there.
of them worked.
I mean, I will say this, like, the one thing I do like about Illumination is that they do cast certain characters, they do cast certain actors who I don't expect to do certain voices. Like, I did not expect, like, Keegan-Michael Key to do the voice of Toad that way. They usually do that. Like, and I didn't expect that Kevin Michael Richardson to do the voice of Kamek. Because, like, Kevin Michael Richardson, you might know he does, like, a very deep voice on, like, shows like Family Guy and The Simpsons. And I did not expect his voice out there. That being said, the fact that they don't give Donkey Kong much to do in this, it's just Seth Rogen, complete with the Seth Rogen laugh.
How did you feel about Quantumania?
Quantumania?
Yeah, how'd you feel about it?
I was torn because on one level it's trying to be one of the more like wackier Ant-Man movies of trying to like, you know, have all these bizarre characters and have a lost world, and at the same time it's trying to like set up phase 5, so it almost felt like a battle between being an Ant-Man movie and being like a phase 5 starter, which I'm very torn about it because like there is some absurd stuff in there. Like I like what they do with MODOK, because MODOK has always been ridiculous. You have to do that character ridiculously, and I feel like they did him justice. And by the time it got to the climax of just having Ant-Man smacking around like this big city and stomping around, there's giant spaceships shooting at him. Okay, you know what? This is silly, but this feels like what I would want out of like a superhero movie. I liked Jonathan Majors in the role of Kang. I feel like for like a character who's so simplistic, who just wants to conquer stuff throughout the multiverse, the actor did a really good job making that character intimidating.
And he's now the Ezra Miller of the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and he's probably not going to be back, which is kind of interesting. I'm trying to think who would be the next Kang, but yeah, for that film at the time, before we knew what we knew about Jonathan Majors, he was definitely the best part of that film. So yeah, like
Since you mentioned that.
I'm of two minds of it, because like there are shades of an Ant-Man film, but at the same time it also feels like we need to, you know, set up phase 5 to the point where like, you know, Ant-Man kind of has to say like, you know, this is supposed to be a fun film, you know, nobody died, I saved the day, and I'm Ant-Man, but yeah, there's bad stuff coming, and phase 5 is probably going to be pretty dark with like the King Dynasty and all that. So yeah, it's a conflicting film. I think ultimately I kind of dug it, but only mildly, just because of like the weird sci-fi stuff that they have.
It feels like just a movie, really. Kind of just like, you know, it's like it's a film. It's nice. It's good, but
Yeah,
not up to where
Special.
it should be.
like
Yeah.
it's halfway there. I like the fact that they go to this weird quantum realm and they encounter all these bizarre creatures and stuff like that. It's just like it feels like they need to go like a little bit of like an extra mile just to make it hit more. And I feel like it doesn't really hit until the third act when it comes into its own, because up till that point it just feels like it's like just business as usual for the MCU, just setting up everything else.
Well, I feel like too, like they did so good in Endgame that anything else now just doesn't feel as good, just because they just did too good. Probably like anything, they just like hyped it up so well that everything else seen has like a little underwhelmance to it.
Well, I mean, that's, yeah, I mean, that comes with like any franchise. It's like you're always going to compare it to whatever was like the best in there. It's like yeah, like is Quantumania as good as Endgame? No, it's not. And it's mostly because like Endgame promised everything. Quantumania promised, at least like, it promised like an Ant-Man film, and it mostly delivered on that. Like it's got like a few of the hallmarks, like, you know, we got to see Greg Turkington again, and we got to see that guy from I Think You Should Leave Now, so there's fun little elements in there. But at the same time, like, yeah, it also feels like it's bound by the continuity of what it's trying to set up. Where I feel like it's almost kind of hindered by it.
Yeah, that
So,
makes sense.
Yeah, like I'm of two minds of that. Like I don't love the film, but I'm kind of like, you know, like for the weird sci-fi elements, it kind of works. I just wish it would embrace more of that and less of just saying like, we got to set up Kang. Here's Kang. I mean, like none of the other past MCU films had to do that, so I don't know why this one had to. But yeah, they were trying to. I think it's the weakest Ant-Man film, but I think it's still like a film that I'm
kind of more leaning towards, yeah.
Okay.